everyone. Thank you for joining us once again for another Coffee Break Technology series. We're excited today to talk about Sd-Wan and explain what that means and how it can impact your organization. Specifically as it relates to internet speeds and how to make sure that your business can be agile in what we have all experienced over the last 12 months. These kinds of things have become even more important for our productivity and efficiency. Excited to be joined today by Paul Hager. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Jeff.
Thanks for joining again. Paul's going to take us through a lot of the good information that he has and he's experienced, and some discussions around Sd-Wan. As always, we would love to hear from you. So please use the Q&A section within the Zoom panel to post questions. We'll try to get those answered throughout. We do have a large group of people attending, so this is a hot topic, and hopefully we'll be able to hear from you on some of your questions. We'll try to get those inserted as we go. So Paul, let's get started talking about Sd-Wan. Can you give a basic overview of what that is and the key differences between what people have experienced in maybe more traditional methods and models?
Sure, yeah. So Sd-Wan, or software-defined wide area network, if we're playing the D acronym game this morning, is basically a firewall. Typically, it's in your firewall. It's on your edge device, and it's usually the software function within that device. So there are dedicated Sd-Wan devices in the world, but predominantly this is technology that is worked into whatever your edge technology might be, which is usually your firewall, the last device before you get out to the internet, or in reverse, the device that your internet plugs into. And so, when we talk about this, is mostly impacting multiple location organizations. So if you're an organization that has multiple sites and you need to share access to data, printers, scanners, phones, there's all sorts of instances where, as you get into multiple locations, you need those locations data to be able to transfer and talk between them securely. And as multi-location businesses, have grown over the years, the predominant technology has been something like MPLS or dedicated fiber services, basically, or ELAN or ENET, or there's lots of fun terms our ISP partners have created in this world. But the net of all of that is it's a way to get a fiber Ethernet connection through an ISP directly from one of your locations to the next. And those, while being typically very high quality, are also really expensive because it's expensive for that ISP to operate those. You're essentially using their switches and their fiber uplinks, maybe through multiple states, through lots of hubs, to get from point A to point B and dedicate that to your business at all times. And so to kind of monitor and manage and take care of all of those links and all of those pops and colos along the way, they charge you an appropriate price for that. That also kind of used to be the only way. It started with T1s, which are 1.5 megs, and you would buy as many of those as your business needed to get from one point to the other. And then it became fiber services, and fiber still remains in the about $1,000 a month fiber connection for 500 to a gig. It's kind of a typical fiber connection ballpark. So when you're talking multiple locations, to pay for that connection to connect locations and then pay for connection out to the internet, it can get really expensive for an organization really quickly. At the advent of kind of software being able to make the determination in real time about what data needs to go what direction, a phone call that needs to go over to another one of your sites, kind of like the advent of the cloud and what we see in software-defined storage and software-defined networking and all the technologies we've been able to enable through software and less with hardware, we now have devices that can take commodity coax internet products and kind of stitch together your multiple locations and make it feel like those connections are similar to one of these more expensive products. That's kind of the super high level of why you go SD-LAN. It's taking commodity internet products always to the internet, nothing that has been kind of put together custom to you from one site to the other, and making it feel like it's all one location with some software magic kind of in between.
Yeah, interesting. So where are you seeing that? Where are you seeing this applied in a successful way? What are some of the best case or use case scenarios that you're seeing organizations apply SD-WAN and having success?
Sure. So we had a client that had 60 locations around the United States. Those locations have a mixture of being in major metros and being in more rural areas. In the rural areas, they were still operating on T1s even in 2020. A 1.5 meg connection was all that they felt like they could get. That was from the one ISP that they were kind of beholden to, because they didn't want to manage 64 different ISPs. So they went to one, and that one quoted them what they could provide them at those 64 sites. Well, I gave them a good management story. It was one invoice that they could, parse out on the GL to each site's manager's accounts. But 1.5 meg is not enough for modern functions of a business, just web browsing. So phones would work. You can make a phone call back to headquarters, but you couldn't browse the internet for a customer. And so SD-WAN allowed that organization to have a consistent firewall. That's the consistent single pane of glass to manage all 64 sites. But you just go to each market and get commodity internet connections that were much cheaper at each of those sites with much greater performance. And the technology then made that all stitch back together, and the phone calls back to the main office still work, but the end users went from having 1 meg to having 100 megs at 10 to 20% of the cost. On the flip side, we had another client that had 6 locations, smaller from the quantity standpoint, but data traveling from one site to the other. Homebase's data center was mission critical, had their call center software, had their main ERP. It was mission critical. And because of that and the nature of their business, they didn't only have one dedicated fiber connection from each location, hub and spoke back to the main office. They had to buy 2. So these really expensive connections were all times 2. And the second connection just sat there in case the first one ever went down. So they were paying a very expensive bill at 6 locations just in the event the other one didn't go down. That felt, rightfully so, like kind of a misallocation of resources. And so SD-WAN for that organization mixed in, so still some dedicated fiber products, but mixed in some commodity internet products. And you can use with SD-WAN, you can use both connections all the time. The software will decide, oh, that's just general internet traffic. So that can go out the Spectrum coax connection. We don't need to use the fancy fiber for that. Oh, that's cloud conversations to Office 365. That's a phone call. Let's make sure that goes out over this dedicated SLA. That's got the fastest path from point A to point B. So software is making those determinations in real time and mixing cheap products with not cheap products. And so in both these cases, the organizations realized significant monthly savings. And in one case, we even found a SD-WAN hardware provider that was willing to lease them the hardware so that their savings monthly was more than their new, better service plus the cost of the hardware on a monthly basis. So they were positive on the deal for SD-WAN, within a month.
Yeah, so it feels like you explained a couple of scenarios there that if something doesn't quite feel right, whether that's you're justifying somehow a really slow connection in some location, or there could be some cost components that just in the back of somebody's mind, they say that doesn't quite feel right. Exploring SD-WAN as a possibility may be a good option.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, if you're on this call and you have one location, you should use SD-WAN to have 2. And internet is critical to your business. You should have a next generation firewall device that can fail over between 2 internet connections. And depending on your business use case, if you're heavily using cloud or cloud-based phone services, I recommend one of those be what we call an SLA'd internet connection, or one that is committed to be always this amount, which is typically fiber, maybe some sort of air fixed fiber or fixed coax or fixed Ethernet product, so that you always have that availability. And then everybody on this call is probably in a region where there is a Cox or a Spectrum or Verizon or AT&T or TDS that's got some very good deal on some very high speed for low cost, but it's not even. It's 1,000 by 100 connection, or it's a 200 by 30, and they don't guarantee that 200 all day long. It depends on how busy the network is. Mixing one of those in. So if you're a small site, you should be looking at something like that. The internet is ever critical. It's the first question on our assessment when we sit down with a existing or new customer is, how critical is the internet to you? And it's funny how we get different answers to that. Well, we could get by. If the internet's down, we can still do our work. Really? You don't need email? You don't take any orders, POs, don't send invoices, don't pay anything in an online bank? Well, yeah, I guess the internet's pretty important. And then and other folks would get that, yeah, internet is critical. We'd be down. Everything is in the cloud. We need internet. And so in both cases, we suggest, and it's line item 2 on our assessment is, do you have 2 connections? Because we just don't think it's optional anymore. All the way up to folks that might be on this call that have multiple locations. You're probably spending too much in your internet provider somewhere, and SD-WAN is sometimes a way to get a win-win scenario. A lot of times to fund projects in IT, we have to go to finance and sell them on the benefits to productivity and security of the business. This is one of those projects that oftentimes we're able to deliver both greater security and performance while also saving money, which coming out of COVID, this might be a project that gets approved faster than some of your others.
Yeah, that question of how reliant is the business on internet, we probably should add the word that says that, or the phrase behind that says, we don't mean browsing.
Yeah.
It's all the business traffic that's over the internet. It's not whether or not you can get to, the Weather Channel to see if it's going to be 50 this weekend or not. Yeah. So obviously you mentioned there could be some cost savings, but if this was always justifiable, everybody would be running in this direction. What are some of the other cost, either advantages or disadvantages that organizations should think about if they're going to move in this direction?
Sure. Yeah. Fair point. Certainly, there are professional services involved in deploying the technology and getting it configured correctly. Identifying the applications in your environment that are critical, Salesforce or Office 365 or web-based ERP or your VoIP provider. Those are all configurations that need to be set up and made. And then, this might require either upgrade to your hardware from a licensing standpoint or the replacement of your edge devices within your network. And so those are all costs that kind of have to go into the ROI of a given SD-WAN project. And things just to be aware of is, always working with the right partner and picking the right technology. Gartner and IDC have all identified kind of the top 10 in SD-WAN players. All have fairly similar stories, having gone through this with a number of our clients. And some of those examples I gave, we sat as a partner at the table and really vetted out a number of the leading solutions together. Most get to the level of, if you are on a phone call and that internet provider goes down, your phone call doesn't even drop that's active. It's always kind of sending one of the bits of that call out the other connection and can even keep that phone call up. So that technology is getting to a pretty advanced state at this point. This isn't we're not just talking internet failover. We're really talking about some really advanced intelligence at the edge of your network to ensure continuity of service.
Okay, good. So, of the people who are listening, some are thinking, wow, maybe this does make sense. This is an approach we should look to adopt. What are the next steps, or what are the right steps for a decision maker to start to think about, and who should they engage if they want to start evaluating whether this is the right fit for them?
Well, always engage Levity. That's the first answer to every technical question on earth. Engage a representative at Levity to help you out. The one you have now, or if you're new and on this call, please join us. We're really good at what we do. But outside of the shameless pitch, gathering your documentation for your internet invoices. Makes a lot of sense. Oftentimes that sits kind of over in an accounting department in a folder somewhere. So kind of digging back up for your locations, what are you paying now? Who are you paying and what are you getting for that service? It's also maybe not a bad time to review your phone service as well. Typically your phone and internet sometimes come from the same provider and appear on the same bill. And it's a good quick way. I was just looking at somebody's internet and phone bill this week and saw they were, still paying $100 a phone line a month. And so we're going to help that customer make some changes there. But sometimes those invoices kind of get quickly forgotten. And so gathering all that data, what is the speed that you have at each of your locations today? What is the matching cost? And the actual, PDF copy of that invoice is a really good starting point for us. We can, we're not an internet provider. We're here to be your strategic advisor around strategy, security solutions, and ultimately support of those solutions here at Levity. But we do have relationships with internet brokers. If you would like to just work with a broker who can get quotes from multiple providers very quickly, or we can help you engage in major ISPs in each of our markets. For better or worse, we're on the phone with them probably every week in some capacity, and we probably have a contact or relationship with each of those major ISPs as well. And we even have, particularly in Wisconsin, have access to some creative internet providers, some folks that are using 5G, some folks that are using fixed wireless. There's a lot that is coming available. As 5G starts to roll out more, these 5G unlimited routers that T-Mobile is offering for people's homes, same as Verizon, if these come to the business world where any business could be getting 500 meg up and down without any physical wires needing to be run to their building, just a router drop shipped to them. That's where I see the next level of this technology going that could become really interesting financially. And then, Elon Musk and his Starlink project, similarly, $100 a month for 100 by 100 connection from low level satellite instead of high orbit satellite, which has latency problems. Low orbit satellite doesn't have. It's just a very fun and interesting time for the internet as we're trying to get the internet to all areas of our globe, but also improve that connectivity, which will have an effect, trickle down effect for our businesses as well. They kind of play it in residential first, and then bring some of those products over into business. You saw it with AT&T U-verse, and that fiber product started in residential and then moved to a commercial product available to businesses.
Yeah, it's interesting. You'd almost think it would be the opposite, but the demands are probably less residential, so they can try some things out, make sure that it works before they open it wide up.
Yeah, see what that work. What is that process? How do their towers handle the workload? All those sorts of things. If you're in the Madison area, T-Mobile just dropped their 5G at home. It's $0 down, and it's $50 a month flat for unlimited 200 meg internet from anywhere, because it's just a wireless device that you plug in, and it's just using T-Mobile's 5G towers that are in the Madison area. Just an interesting time for internet.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how that has an impact on organizations' ability to be productive or to take another thought to or look at their infrastructure and how resources can get to the information that they need and be productive.
Yeah, because I think a big barrier to cloud adoption for a lot of people is just that fear of, well, what if I become disconnected? I would adopt more cloud, or I'd get out of having a data center if I felt confident, and or that connectivity was not overly expensive. So Sd-Wan and these new internet products are really a gateway to continuing to improve that consumption. Now, throw into that COVID where people are less in the office. Imagine you're that client that's spending thousands upon thousands of dollars for redundant connections at every one of your offices, and nobody's even in them, and everyone's working from home anyway. Now how do you invest? Now what does that look like? But these are the interesting challenges that 2020 and 2021 are bringing us.
Yeah, right. Because as soon as you start to have more of a distributed workforce that are maybe performing some critical functions, like your main phone operator, or other people that play a critical role in organizational communication, and they live in an area where the internet's not as consistent, now that starts to have a real impact on your client experience. So yeah, all kinds of interesting things for everyone really to think about. Question did come in that I was waiting on because it kind of wanted to line up with our discussion here, but what is the move to SD-WAN like? Like, is this a significant project? Is it something that, for the most part, users don't really have knowledge of, other than all of a sudden maybe there's a better performance? What is the project like, and what is that move like to SD-WAN?
Yeah, good question. Like a lot of things in IT, if it's executed well, the end user shouldn't experience anything other than a better experience when it comes to their applications performing. Or in some cases, SD-WAN is about just delivering the same performance at a much lower cost. So the end user experience is normal day-to-day operations continue. For the IT department, if it's not us and we're interacting with your IT department, this is a project, right? We are probably lining up maybe new internet providers, coordinating the dates that they're going to start service and your other service is going to stop. And we need to make sure we have the device configured with the right IP addresses and the right configuration. If it's going to replace the firewall, we're maybe updating VPNs and IP addresses people use to connect to those. So it kind of depends on the complexity of your environment and the number of locations and the number of ISPs that you're changing. On some of the larger scale projects, the waiting for the internet providers to bring that new service you just ordered or cancel the old one is the much harder part of it than it is putting the technology in place. It's the internet providers that continue to be able to be pretty terrible at what they do and still exist.
Yeah. So if your connection to the outside world and how you rely on internet is important enough to consider making a change to this technology, doing the project right is probably even more important.
Yeah.
Make sure there isn't disruption, and you think through it, and you engage people who have been through it before and know kind of where the potholes are. Would probably be important.
Yep. Yeah. And that's where really strong project management comes into place. And we obviously have the IT project managers on staff that have the experience of managing these projects. We don't leave people to just flap in the wind and have to deal with these ISPs. We join calls with the ISP's project manager and make sure we are coordinating the steps together in our in lockstep and saying, is your team ready? Have you tested that connection before our team shows up? Kind of have the experience to not just sit in the back seat when projects like this, but sit in the front seat and help drive with you through getting these changes put in place successfully. There certainly could be some downtime from a swapping a device out perspective, but we have done a lot of these swings with little and even no downtime because of the nature of how these redundant network technologies can often be put in place.
Sure. Good. Another great question is, in terms of the hardware, what have we experienced, or what do we recommend? What's kind of what are the more common hardware components or manufacturers, I guess, that have we implemented or engaged with our clients?
Yeah, so important to talk about kind of the sides of our organization and our go-to-market strategy. We have a group that supports our SMB and fully managed accounts. And within our managed program, we currently have fully managed programs around Meraki edge devices and Fortinet edge devices, which both have SD-WAN options within them. And so if you kind of fall into that, under 120 users, and we represent your outsourced IT department, those are the underlying hardware vendors we will lean on to do an fully managed SD-WAN rollout for you, and we'll manage the firewall and rules and all of that after for you. If you join us from the mid-market space, meaning you have probably over 100 users in your organization, and you lean on us for projects, and you have team members that handle kind of some of your day-to-day, or anywhere in between, our ecosystem of partners gets a little bit wider at that point, and we've got some hardware vendors that we call ecosystem partners, where we're well versed in deploying and supporting them on an ad hoc basis, but we kind of turn the keys back over to the environment, typically over to you. And there, we broaden a little bit and have access to not only the full line of Cisco products, both the traditional and Meraki side. Fortinet again, who's a very strong player, and it's part of the reason why we really like the Fortinet partnership is they can go from SMB all the way up. Also have relationships with Versa and Silver Peak, which was acquired recently by HP. So HP's move into the edge and routing world. So HP, Aruba, all of that world is starting to collapse. We were a Plexi partner who does hyperconverged switching. That was acquired by HP. So that's all coming in under the Aruba brand. And HP is continuing to bolster its game when it comes to the networking side. And Silver Peak was a real leader in some of the really deep technology for when I talked about like a phone call not even dropping. That's where Silver Peak's technology really shined and had a strategic advantage over others. As well as Citrix, their NetScaler product, if you're a Citrix shop, but they have a NetScaler solution that is also a leader in that SD-WAN space. And we have Citrix expertise on staff as well. So number of players in this space, we're always going to be you come to us versus searching Amazon or other three-letter terrible places to buy stuff, because we're going to help provide you with the recommendation of the solution that's going to be right for your business, truly right for your business, not just who's got the best program or discount going on right now. It's going to be about what's the right solution for your organization. But if you're looking for names to kind of search and get familiar with SD-WAN, I might start with Silver Peak and Fortinet and the Cisco product lines.
All right, great. So we covered a lot about SD-WAN. Hopefully that was enough to get some people thinking about and considering whether this is an approach that would make good sense for them. Of course, as you mentioned earlier in your shameless plug, we'd be happy and are more than capable to engage in this discussion and figure out what would be right for your organization and how to put that in perspective, both on your technology roadmap as well as from an ROI perspective. So thanks again for joining us. We always try to make coffee available. We have implemented a new ability to get that quickly. So if you want to scan this code on your form, that will allow you to claim that card very quickly. If not, you can go to the type form, and if for any reason you can't catch all of that real quickly, we will send something out to you as well. I'll come back to this in a second, but as a reminder, you can go to alevityit.com/assessment to take the next step. Send us your information. Of course, you can always reach out to anyone at Alevity, your account manager, your VCIO, your service delivery specialist, your favorite engineer. That will all get back to the right people, and we'd love to engage. So thanks again for your time. I'll leave this up for a little bit if anybody still wants to grab that. Have a great weekend. And Paul, well done. Thanks for your time, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.